Hey, it's JC1424 once again with another album review, and today we're going to be talking about Linkin Park's third studio album, Minutes to Midnight. This was released on May 14th, 2007, and this is the album that cemented me as a longtime Linkin Park fan. Because as it was with a lot of bands and music artists, you already know what their music is going to sound like before it even comes out, because they've established themselves in a certain genre. Finally, I, at the age of 9 years old, was not a fan of a band because how they did a certain genre. I was a fan of the artist just because I liked how they made music, regardless what the freaking genre was. They were just fluid in genre. They were on a whole freaking spectrum, and this album is so dynamic and full of variety, and that is the best way to describe it. Track 1, Wake, is an intro, and it's got some mysterious X-Files type shit going on, and it sounds like it's coming off of a cassette tape. Simultaneously, it's almost like the soundtrack to miracles of nature with some beautiful chords to paint the picture. And that leads into the first song on the album, which is track 2, Given Up. This was used in the trailer of a movie called Wanted. I recommend it. It's edgy, badass stuff. And this is the style of punk rock that they based The Hunting Party on, just with stellar production, which I could say about this whole album. But this song right here, I really wish The Hunting Party sounded like this song while still, being the same music, obviously. Because, man, the production was just off in The Hunting Party because Chester would be in the back sometimes and things would be a little roomy and clunky. It sounded raw, obviously, but I think it would be better off sounding like a lot of the stuff on this album and songs like this. Then you got Mike's claps and Brad's jingling keys are the neat little addition that adds a ton of character in this song. Then Chester holds out this historic, menacing scream, letting loose eons of misery and frustration.
I'm my own worst enemy. I've given up. I'm sick of feeling. Is there nothing you can say?
The second song on this album, Leave Out All the Rest, is track 3, and it's a rock lullaby aided by some subtle piano and a cello sample. This wound up being featured in the ending credits of the movie Twilight. That's can be said about a number of songs on this album being featured in movies. They were getting themselves out there and promoting this stuff well. And then they were a household name at that point, so everyone wanted to have some Linkin Park in their shit. But they already knew this was going to be a single and rewrote it numerous times, which resulted in a plea for forgiveness and an expression of humility. And it also uses some of their traditional percussion and tone, much like in the last album with a song like Easier to Run.
So if you're asking me, I want you to know, when my time comes, forget the wrong that I've done. Help me leave behind some reasons to be missed.
And then the third song on this album is Bleed It Out, which is track 4. This is another one of the singles, and it has a unique, trippy music video where it's like a bar fight, but it's happening in reverse while the band is playing forward on the stage. And I guess you could flip that around by just playing the video in reverse, and you could see how the fight starts at the beginning of the video instead of at the end. But anyhow, this song has some intriguing inspiration. It takes an authentic dive into the songwriting process. The song is about how hard the song was to write. And then you have this guitar lick that originates from a mistake that was caught in the studio, and they take that loop and they just build into this badass ending. And so that's just impressive. And then you have this tambourine and crowd noises that are implemented, and they turn it into this lyrically ironic party jam, which I'll explain that in a bit. But Mike raps some 100 verses in the process of composing the song, and even leaves lines in about expecting to just trash most of them because they don't work and it's not good enough. And then Chester's just yelling about it, and he's got all these emotions that he's feeling, and they got to write it down and then throw it away and feel some more stuff and then throw that away and then do it again and again. And it sucks because the fans, they don't even realize this shit, so they leave some of that stuff in an artistic effect, because it's like, half the words don't mean anything. They know they won't be satisfied, so why go ignoring it? Make it a dirt dance floor again. Say their prayers and stop it out when they bring that chorus in.
I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away.
Track 5, Shadow of the Day. This isn't my favorite song on the album. Sure, it is for a lot of people, but it is definitely up there for me. This is an uplifting one about loss and celebration of life. And it's kind of like Leave Out All the Rest, which I talked about earlier, with this U2 type sound. It's just much softer here. And I hold a lot of nostalgia for this one over the years just because of the odd reversed organ samples. There's no other song that starts out the way that this one does. And then there's the progression from both the violin and the lighthearted guitar tone and just layers and layers on top of each other. And I consider this to be Chester's most beautiful vocal performance from all the discography, and then even stuff from Grey Days. There is no other song that touched me in a way like this one does. I mean, it's too beautiful for words. Then you have a solemn outro that sets up anticipation for a moment of redemption that will follow in the very next song.
And the sun will set for you. The sun will set for you. And the shadow of the day will embrace the world in gray.
Should I make some robot sound effects or something? Sounds like freaking Disturbed instead. Fuck. Track 6, What I've Done, is about repentance and self-forgiveness. And this is the one that was made famous by concluding the first live-action Transformers movie. If you even want to call that live-action, that was more like a bunch of CGI. Anyhow, with its iconic, chilling piano intro, kind of sounds like Halloween stuff, but then those first chords come in, and the guitar has an uncommon tuning. It's a style that's usually heard occasionally from Green Day, I guess, on some deep cuts, or maybe their Uno Dos Tres trio albums. That's what I think of. And then DJ Han adds some cool signature to the pre-chorus, and it's a solid chorus. It's a nice hook. Mike harmonizes the end to make it really dramatic and all that. And although this song is basic, it stands out for its nostalgia over the years. Because I cannot listen to this song without seeing a black GMC truck pull onto a hill and then two teenagers making out on the hood of a Camaro. That doesn't make any sense without this context, but you get my point.
So let mercy come and wash away what I've done. I'll face myself to cross out what I become.
Track 7, Hands Held High, expresses grievances over the lack of world peace and how prayers aren't fixing anything. But generally speaking, that's all that we can do. So you have a church organ that's combined with a taps-esque drum cadence, and it makes for spiritual conflict in the music. So in one way, it doesn't work, but it paints like a really good imagery for the song. This is one that I know word for word to this day. Mike Shinoda perfected the writing on this one. The closing verse is also a divine composition and therapeutic execution of harmonies.
Risk something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich and abandon poor. Like they understand you in the back of the jet when you can't put gas in your tank. These fuckers are laughing away to the bank and cashing a check, asking you to have compassion and have some respect.
Track 8, No More Sorrow, uses the same type of sound approach as Given Up did when they started the album, and it goes in a more rebellious direction. The drums commit to the aesthetic by coming off as an intimidating march, which is something that I'm led to believe that they adapted from the previous song just to keep things going, and it helps the album evolve and be cohesive. The song could be taken politically, and it is about abuse of power and taking it back. Fucking taxation, sons of bitches. Then the guitar is like a siren and just goes off before another heavy breakdown, while Chester just wreaks havoc yet again.
These and hypocrites. These and hypocrites.
Track 9, Valentine's Day, is a song that Chester wrote about losing his father. He's not even dead, though. what the fuck? The first half is a beautiful, softly sung collection of devastating thoughts. The drums are like an aching heartbeat, while the subtle guitar and additional piano, they just open up the story more and more with all this reverb to a hopeless feeling of abandonment that is going to wind up being permanent. And then the remainder of the song is this realization of a new foreign kind of loneliness with power chords beneath it. And then the whole song just wraps itself back together at the end.
So now you're gone, and I was wrong. I never knew what it was like to be alone on a Valentine's Day. On a Valentine's Day.
And then track 10 is In Between. And this has got to be my least favorite on the album. Always has been. It's relatably an apology for failing to even be who you expect yourself to be in a relationship. And the percussion is some classic stuff that Linkin Park is actually known for. It's kind of like Runaway, but smothered. The lead vocals are entirely done by Mike, but they miss the mark a bit, in my opinion. Chester does some low harmonies in there, not that you would really notice them. They don't solve anything, in my opinion. But I will say, the light guitar in this one is a nice touch, and the bridge is an eloquent escalation of the whole track.
The only thing that's worse than one is none. And I cannot explain to you in anything I say or do or plan.
The 11th track, In Pieces, is my favorite on the album. One of my favorites they have ever released. I'd say it's underrated. It goes kind of forgotten by the Linkin Park fan base. It's about taking the high road and coping with lies and abandonment in a relationship. The guitar solo just progresses into these closing chords that are stupendous and impactful. You got these bells, the DJ effect on the drums, the main riff that are all so unique before blossoming into this sonic Linkin Park sound that we knew them for whenever they came back recently. Track 12, The Little Things Give You Away, is the 11th and final song on this record, and it's based on a story of Hurricane Katrina victims and their disappointment in George Bush with how he handled the disaster and the aftermath of it all. The drums and cymbals, they just build up slowly to a delectable guitar solo. It comes soaring along like a fucking tidal wave over these super low chords. And Chester, he smoothens his voice over Mike's to paint layers of brilliance to close this album. Now, it's not my favorite on here. I'm sure many could say the same, but I gotta admit that this is the best piece of music composed by Linkin Park in their entire discography. Maybe it rivals A Line in the Sand, which I like that song more, but that's debatable. And that was the closer to The Hunting Party. But anyhow, my final score for Linkin Park's third studio album, Minutes to Midnight, released on May 14th, 2007, is a 97%, which is almost an A+. I would bump it up to a 98% if I'm really feeling the nostalgia for the song What I've Done. But if not, I would say it sticks a landing at 97. And it's as dynamic as 1,000 Suns wound up being, but without the awkward production choices or a bunch of interludes. This album doesn't even have any damn interludes. It's just got an intro. Now, the only flaw is a generic lead single, like I was saying, and then Mike's one song on here a bit lacking in its performance. Otherwise, this is a perfectly spectacular album. So, I mean, if you're not a metal junkie and, you like rock music, maybe a little bit of pop, this one's for you, man. See you next time. That's that, and album review over.